So if you've seen this channel before, you'll know I'm a big fan of the Sony ZV E10 as a beginner camera. And recently I picked up a couple of lenses that I think are probably the best budget cinema lenses that you can get for the Sony APS-C system. These are the 7Artisans Vision series of lenses. They are cinema lenses designed for Sony APS-C. They also make them for Fuji X and possibly others, I'm not too sure. And they open all the way up to t1.05. Now t-stops work a little bit differently from f-stops, but that's probably the equivalent of like an f0.95 or an f1, something like that. They have a full metal housing. They feel fantastic in the hands. They balance pretty well on the camera, definitely front heavy, but they feel really good, and I imagine these are probably even better on something like a Sony FX30. They're really well made and well designed. They've got a really nice sort of slip-on metal lens cap. They are not weather sealed on the back, so if that's something that you care a lot about, there's no weather sealing. But for the price that you can get these lenses for, which is anywhere from $300 to $500 depending on which of the lenses you pick up, the 25 I think is the most expensive. They have a 25mm, a 35mm, 50mm, and I think they just came out with a 12mm, although I haven't seen much about that lens, and it doesn't open up quite as wide as this one does. So I decided to pick up two of these lenses. I have the 25mm and the 35mm. I got both of them on eBay, but you can get them on Amazon or B&H, wherever you typically pick up lenses, at around $400 a piece. So I stuck these on my Sony ZV E10, took it on a camping trip when we went hiking out in Red River Gorge here in Kentucky, and just sort of wanted to see what kind of footage I could get from lenses like these. So I was actually really impressed by the quality that comes out of these lenses for the price. It's very rare to see a lens for under $500 that opens all the way up to t1.05. And yes, this is for APS-C, so that maybe drops the price a little bit, but you know, these are still cheaper than some Rokinon lenses or you know, Meki's Cine lenses. They're cheaper, they open up wider, and honestly, they don't even sacrifice that much in image quality. I expected sharpness to be basically zero. I expected there to be a crazy amount of chromatic aberration, and while, you know, when they're wide open, they're not the sharpest lenses in the world, and there is a little bit of chromatic aberration, it's really not bad at all. I think the image that comes out of these is beautiful. I think you can get a really dreamy, smooth, fluffy kind of look to the image with it being open all the way at t1.05. Now, when I filmed this, these are the only lenses that I used in that whole sequence that you saw, and I used a Freewell mist variable ND filter. So there was variable ND on the front with a mist filter, so that it's going to have slightly more halation than these lenses do naturally, but obviously if you're filming outdoors, you're going to want to put a VND on them to sort of combat some of that light. So they have an 82mm filter thread. All three of the lenses, the 50, the 25 and the 35, all have 82mm filter threads on the front. The gears match up, they line up perfectly with each other. So if you're swapping follow focus systems, you can swap the lenses very easily. And overall, they were absolutely fantastic to use. I genuinely was very impressed with the image and kind of the feel of the lens. Now, nailing focus certainly was not easy, especially at t1.05. That's to be expected. But it was fun. It was a fun experience. It was a good challenge. And I just added a little bit something different to going on a hiking trip. Most people wouldn't take cinema lenses on a hiking trip, and this is just something I thought would be fun to try out. And it was it was much better than I expected. I thought the image that came out of it was excellent. So even when it wasn't in focus, because you're filming with manual focus, if you miss focus a little bit, it's actually fine because the lens isn't hunting back and forth trying to find it. It has a more natural feel to it. Even if you don't nail focus every single time, there's a lot of footage that you can get out of this lens and camera combo that you probably wouldn't use if it was an autofocus lens that was missing focus. I hope that makes sense. So honestly, I don't have a huge amount to say about these lenses. There are honestly hardly any cons to these lenses. They are manual, but if you're used to shooting with manual lenses, that's fine. I shoot a lot of manual lenses and these were very nice to use. The focus ring is fantastic. It's got a good throw to it, very smooth. Same with the aperture ring, incredibly smooth. It was just a lot of fun to use. So if you have a ZV E10 and you're looking for a lens set that's going to add something a little bit more interesting to your shooting experience or to the footage that you're capturing, these are an incredible lens set to go for. And yes, they can open all the way up to t1.05, which will give you that kind of dreamy look, but that doesn't mean you have to shoot at 1.05. I filmed a lot of stuff out at the forest at t4 or t5.6, and the sharpness was fantastic. There was incredibly sharp footage and very usable. So again, just because it does open up to t1.05 doesn't mean you have to film in t1.05 all the time. So just keep that in mind. But it is very handy. Another benefit to these lenses is that some of these cameras, the APS-C cameras, are not quite as good in low light. So that extra couple of stops of light makes a huge difference when you're filming in low light scenarios. This weekend, I'm actually going to be filming a wedding with this camera, and I'm going to use these lenses, and I'm going to compare it side by side as a B camera to a $4,000 cinema camera. So if you're interested in seeing how this camera pairs with a proper cinema camera, make sure to subscribe. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, drop a comment down below. I want to hear from you. And yeah, subscribe if you want to follow along as we continue to build this channel. Thank you so much for doing so, and I hope you have a wonderful day.